So let's start and look at some of the effects. And I want to start with looking at structural things. And I'm going to suggest to you that many of the things on this list dominate our debates about education. We have to give more money. We have to fix the class size. We have to do ability grouping. We have to come up with different kinds of schools and charter schools, yeah? So, what do you think the effect of those are? Do you think they're going to be above the 0.4 or below the 0.4? I've got 200 different things, so where would they rank? Well, I can't find a single structural effect that's greater than 0.4. The majority of things that we debate in education don't matter much. And I say we because I include teachers in that along with the rest of us. The structural things, yeah, we need to get them right. But in terms of the hierarchy of this business, nah. So what about these ones? What about some attributes of the students? We all know that if only schools had the right students, life would be easy. So you can see some of the attributes up there. So what do you think their effects are? Greater than 0.4 or less than 0.4? Does it matter who the kids are? No. What works in our business works for most kids, if not all kids. It's very hard to find differences. What about programs? Now I say here deliberately deep programs because this is what you hear all the time. You've got to have problem solving. You've got to have deep thinking. You've got to have individualized instruction. You've got to have problem-based learning. You've got to match kids' learning styles with their teaching. So what do you think? No. They don't matter. And I want you to remember this because I'm going to come back to this in a moment. Technology. Oh, come on. All we need to have is laptops and technology, and then things will be marvellous. Now, you know the answer, don't you? No. Okay. These are the kind of things that I would argue are the politics of distraction. The kind of things that we talk about in our business so often, which means we avoid addressing what really matters in schools. Let's get to the good story. Now, the first thing with those numbers, you can see, they're dramatically different. And my point is that the biggest effect in our business is expertise of the teachers. It's the teachers who work together. I'll say that again. Teachers who work together, collectively, collaboratively, to understand their impact. And that's probably the biggest single most factor in this business, that teachers and principals and systems that go into classrooms, that go into schools, that go into to systems who say, my job is to understand my impact, are the ones that have the biggest effect. Not the teachers who say, my job's to cover the curriculum, my job's to get kids through the exams. It's teachers who say, I want to understand my impact. Now, it begs the moral purpose question. What is impact? And that's a really critical question. And it's not just scores on tests. One of the things that I think is critical is how do we get kids to reinvest in this business called learning so they want to do more of it. And certainly if you look at the evidence of what's the best predictor of health, wealth and happiness in adult life, it's not achievement at school. It's more than years of schooling. So how can our schoolings be inviting places to get kids to come back to? That's a really critical part of knowing thy impact. It is understanding very clearly in every lesson and every day what the student knows already. Because that's the starting point to then say, now we need to know what success looks like. So you don't go in there and just create a set of interesting materials and hope every kid has some point of starting point. Knowing deeply where a kid starts. But it's also showing the students up front what success looks like as they're beginning this task. It's a bit like a video game. If those of you like me who have been through the Angry Birds fetish, it knows exactly what your prior achievement is, your last score. It then sets a target, a goal, a success, kind of using the Goldilocks principle, not too hard, not too easy. And then it piles in feedback and information and gives you multiple tries A lot of deliberate practice you put into it to reduce that gap. And then what happens? They increase the standard and they increase the success. And you want to reinvest and reinvest. It's no different in our schooling. Except the critical difference is that so often in our schools, the students don't know what success looks like in the series of lessons. Errors, mistakes. Hey, what's the point of going to school if you know it already? The reason you go to learning is because you don't know. And not knowing is an incredible opportunity. And how can we get our schools and our classrooms to create climates with a lot of trust so that it's okay to make mistakes and errors? Maximising feedback to teachers. How can we get teachers to get feedback about their impact? That's the point of assessment in schools, to help teachers understand their impact. And I mentioned before about those deep programs. Well, look here, simple. If you want to think, you have to have something to think about. It's the proportion of knowing lots of stuff and then moving on to relate and extend those ideas. And if you're learning something for the first time here today, you need a lot of surface detail before I can get you then to start thinking of connections. It's that proportion. And it's knowing when, as a teacher, to move from knowing stuff to relating that stuff is the key. And it's that Goldilocks principle of challenge. Not too hard, not too easy. And then asking the students, teaching them the learning strategy so they can deliberately practice with a lot of coaching from us as teachers to reduce that gap from where they are to where they want to be. And certainly my message here today is it's this notion of expertise that's incredibly powerful in this business.